like, say critical race theory, like, as an example, I don't agree with the government saying I can't teach critical race theory, but that's also because I know that I would do a better job of teaching critical race theory than other people.
What do you guys think as well about, on the flip side then, about being racist to, say, someone like me who's British? Can you be racist to a British person?
So, critical race theory would say you can't be racist to white culture. It would say you can discriminate against somebody, but it would say the word racism itself means something different from racial discrimination. And so what it would say, racial discrimination, we know, is treating people different based on their race. What it would say racism is racial discrimination when it goes from the majority power to the minority power, sort of thing. So in this country, the majority power is white culture and the minority power is ethnic minority culture, sort of thing. So that's how, like, critical race theory looks at the idea of who is empowered.
Yeah, it's a scenario kind of, rather than...
Yeah, so rather than an overriding, this is always true, it looks at case by case of where that power is coming from and that.
Okay.
So in that sense, the word racism is reserved for this combination of... So the phrase that they actually use in critical race theory rather than power is privilege.
Yeah.
So it's this idea of there are people who have privilege in some aspect versus people who have oppression in that aspect. And so racism and homophobia and transphobia and all those words refer to the discrimination coming from somebody with privilege over somebody without privilege there.
Yeah, okay.
But again, the government said I have to be very clear, that is my opinion. Me saying what I currently said here does oversimplify it because, you know, the majority of sociologists would work under a critical race theory model. And so it's kind of like, you know, it's like when people say, oh, the theory of evolution, well, it has the word theory on it, so it can't be proven. Well, actually, scientists will say we use the word theory even when we're like 95% sure something is the case.
Unless you're 100% sure, it will still be theory.
Yeah, exactly. And science, you can't ever be 100% sure certain. The way the government make it sound, it makes it sound like, you know, half the people believe something and half the people don't believe something, when actually it's probably closer to like 80% of sociologists versus 20% sort of.
Yeah, I can see that.
And I just don't know at what point that then defeats the purpose. Like, yes, there are opposing viewpoints, but actually, at what point, or whose job is it to then educate on, actually, these are the experts versus non-experts, or anything like that. When I use the word oppression from a critical race theory framework, I think there still is that in this country, and what that manifests as is, so I know I used the word microaggressions earlier, is that we do still have these microaggressions. So there's kind of small bits which aren't like, you know, so for example, the example you used earlier about having different foods and all that, there will be some people who still, like, you know, if I warmed up my curry and rice in the microwave, it'd be like, oh, you know, you're thinking out the thing. It's not coming, in their head, it's not like, oh, you're brown and I hate you. And
well, exactly
it's disgusting.
Yeah.
But it's kind of you wouldn't have said that to somebody who would have like warmed up fish in the microwave would have made an equally bad smell because in your like and it's that kind of it's not consciously coming from a place of racial discrimination, but it is notable that you're only saying it to a brown person rather than a white person, sort of thing. So I think that kind of unconscious bias still exists, and I think there's a term used that's called institutional racism, which is people, like, so one of the things that people are talking about at the moment is the police force, is that institutionally racist or not? What that is not saying that police people, especially in this country, not talking about America, are racist themselves, but the way the system is set up and the way that institution, the hierarchy that works, still negatively affects ethnic minorities rather than white people.
Yeah.